You still up on Lennox? Heard the building got bought out. I'm not trying to start nothing, man. I'm just asking, no doubt. Building got bought, tenants got letters, that's the whole synopsis. I'm in Mount Vernon now, got tired of explaining my address to deposits. You still doing the thing with the non-profit, the youth program grant? I saw the flyer on a pole, almost didn't recognize you, man. I won't lie, I can't. Yeah, I'm doing that pays less than the block did, way less, but I sleep better most nights, minus the obvious caveat, confess. You still rhyming? I heard a verse of yours on a mixtape last winter. Tariq played it in the car, said you still the same lyrical splinter. You always were, just older, angrier in a quieter way. That's not an insult, I mean it as the highest thing I could say. I'm still rhyming, nobody's checking for it the way they did, but I'm not doing it for them no more. I'm doing it for the kid I used to be, who needed somebody to say the thing out loud. I owe him that much, even if the room's not as crowded as it used to be. You remember the corner, the milk crate stage? I remember everything, that's half my problem at this age. Yeah. Reggie from the third floor used to box. Yeah, I heard, I went to the thing. Saw you from across the room but didn't come over, didn't know what I would say. Some silences aren't avoiding, some are just respect for the weight. I get that, I do, I wasn't trying to make it heavy. I just think about everybody less than I used to, and that bothers me already. That's just time, it's not betrayal, that's just the actual cost of moving forward. You can't carry everyone or you'll be lost in the carrying. I had to learn that the hard way myself. Some people you put down gently, not throw away, just up on a shelf. You can reach when you need to, but don't have to dust every day. That's a good way to put it. You always had a way of making the hard things sound like something you could survive. That's the only skill that kept either of us alive. That's a good way to put it. You always had a way, making the hard things sound like something you could survive. That's the only skill that kept either of us alive.
I borrowed my cousin's suit, cause mine was at the cleaners still. Sleeves hit my knuckles, pants 3 inches short. I look like I escaped from a drill. Teen at this bandit, everybody in the church half staring at my ankles. Meanwhile, my Aunt Pearl crying so hard she making sounds, not even syllables. The pastor said Uncle Ray fought a good fight, Ray ain't fought nothing. Ray watched Judge Matheson complained about the heat. That's the man we're discussing. I'm not disrespecting, I love them. I'm just saying funerals got a script. Everybody plays their part, even when the part don't fit, like this borrowed suit rip. At a scene I didn't notice till the third hymn, standing in the pew, trying to hold a paper fan in dignity. In the bulletin too, my phone kept buzzing. Work of all the days, I finally turned it off. And that's when it hit me that Ray's not gonna call me with a complaint about a cough, or ask if I watched the game, or tell the same story for the 9th time this year. That's when the suit stopped being funny and the laughing turned into something different right here. After the service, everybody go to the basement for the food. Macaroni in 4 different pans, everybody claiming their version's understood to be the best one. Aunt Pearl's got the burnt cheese on top thing going. My mother's got the one with the egg in it that nobody's really knowing why it's in there, but you don't ask, you just eat it and say it's good. Ray would've had 3 plates by now, told a joke that nobody understood. The punchline too, but laughed anyway because the delivery was the gift. I'm standing by the cooler holding a paper plate I can't lift to my mouth because my throat's doing something it wasn't doing in the church. Funny how the grief waits for the quiet moment to do its actual research on you, finds you by the Tupperware, not during the eulogy at all. I excused myself to the bathroom, stood there with my back against the wall in a suit 3 sizes wrong, and let it happen for a minute by myself. Then washed my face, walked back out, and put the version of me back on the shelf that everybody needed to see. The one that's holding up alright, that its own kind of suit too. Don't fit, wore it anyway that night.
3:40 in the morning and the television's talking to nobody specific. Info ultra for a blender selling certainty that I find weirdly terrific. I'm half asleep on the couch with my shoes still on from earlier today. The ceiling fan's making it sound like it's translating something far away. My grandmother's voice in a dream I had. She's been gone since 2003, telling me to turn the stove off. Except there's no stove, just me and the TV. The static between channels sound like the ocean if the ocean got tired. I'm thinking about a girl from 10th grade whose last name I can't recall. Required information that the brain just lets go of for no good reason. At 4 a.m. the influential man so confident about the blender I almost trust him then. My phone's at 12% and I don't reach for the charger, just watch it die slow. Some nights you let the small things go because the small things are easier to let go. I'm walking through a version of my old block, but the buildings are taller. The corner store sign says something different. The owner's somebody smaller than I remember. Maybe I'm just bigger now, dream physics don't explain. Somebody's playing a record from a window. I know the song but not the name. The static finds me again. I'm back on the couch, the TV's on an infomercial for knives. Now different hosts, same confidence, equally rehearsed and commercial. I think about how many nights I spend exactly like this one, half dreaming, half watching, half finishing thoughts before they're done. And how that is some kind of life, the half-life, the in-between, the hours nobody should tee. Sorry, that's not even a word, I mean the hours nobody counts because they happen while the city's asleep. I'm not sad about it, I'm just awake in a place most people don't keep visits to. The 4 a.m. room, the static room, the dream logic flow. I fall asleep eventually, the infomercial will sell one more thing to nobody listening. And somewhere my grandmother's voice will keep telling, dream me about a stove, because some part of the brain still makes that choice to worry. Even now, even here, even in the static and the warp. Channel 13's just snow, now I watch it like a song, I let it absorb. I think I actually fell asleep at some point, hard to tell exactly when. Cause the info usually still playing, but it's a different host again. Or maybe the same host aged, or maybe that's just how 4 a.m. faces look. My grandmother's in the room now, not in a dream, just sitting like she took the bus over special, reading the TV guide like it's the actual paper. She doesn't say anything about the stove this time, just a quiet, gentle vapor of presence, the kind you don't question, cause questioning breaks the spell. I ask her if she's real, she just smiles like that's not a thing she has to tell. Like the question answered itself if I really think about it right. The static behind her hums low, patient like it's been there all night, waiting for this exact moment, this exact half awake permission. I close my eyes again, when I open them there's no addition of anybody in the room, just the TV, just the same info your blender, 12% battery dying slow on the table, the same surrender to whatever this hour actually is. Not sad, not exactly haunted, just a version of missing somebody that the daylight's never granted me the space to feel this clear. 4 a.m. doesn't perform politeness, it just hands you the thing directly, no warning for brightness of a feeling you've been managing all day, finally let loose. Channel 13 still snow, I'm still on the couch, still no excuse to get up and charge the phone, lock the door, do what the morning will require. Some nights you just sit in a static a while longer than required. Turn it off.
My grandmother had a Bible with the spine held together by tape. Read it every morning at the kitchen table, never once late. I used to watch her finger move on the verses she already knew by heart. Wonder what it gave her that I couldn't seem to find my part. Oh, even sitting next to her, even hearing the same words read. I'm not saying I don't believe, I'm saying belief got complicated in my head. Somewhere around the time I started asking why bad things happen to good people. And the answers I got back felt thinner than the question, kind of feeble. Against the actual weight of watching somebody decent suffer for no reason. My grandmother would say some things ain't for understanding, just for season. And I nod because I loved her, not because the answer settled anything in me. I'm 34 now, still got a Bible, still don't know what I believe completely. I pray sometimes, not the formal way, just talking like she taught me. Usually when I'm scared or grateful, which is honestly how most of it caught me. Off guard, not in church, not in crisis, exactly just ordinary Tuesday weather. I don't know if anybody's listening, I keep talking anyway together. With the uncertainty which feels more honest than pretending, I'm sure. My cousin became an atheist in college, sent me articles, tried to assure me that I'd feel free once I let the whole structure go completely. I read them, some of it made sense, but freedom never felt like the thing I'm seeking. I think I just want the version of faith that doesn't require me to pretend. I'm not confused the kind my grandmother maybe secretly had in the end. Underneath the verses, underneath the routine, underneath the tape on the spine. Maybe that was always built into the structure, not outside the design. I kept the Bible on my shelf, not reading it daily like she did. But I haven't thrown it out either, that's the most honest faith I've ever had. Died on a Wednesday, which she would have found mildly funny. Said Wednesdays were for errands and minor miracles, not for anything as significant as dying. She had opinions about days like that, plenty of them. Said Sundays for worship, but Tuesdays for actually being good to people. I sat with her the night before, didn't pray exactly, just held her hand under the hospital light. And something happened that I still can't put language to. Not a sign, not a voice, just a stillness that felt like it was asking nothing of you, except to be there fully, without needing an explanation for the stillness. Maybe that's what she had all those mornings at the table, not certainty, just willingness to sit inside the not knowing, without it costing her the comfort. I think I finally understand the verse she read most, not the answer, just the offer of showing up daily to a question you're never fully close. I don't go to a church anymore, I go to the cemetery, and I suppose that counts as something. I talk to her the way I used to talk to whoever's listening. Maybe that's the whole of faith, not the proof, just the persistent. In a conversation you're not sure is heard, because the asking itself is the prayer. I light a candle some Sundays now, not for an answer, just to have somewhere to put the missing catechism. Never taught me that part, she did in the doing. Tape on the spine, hand on mine. Some things don't need proving.
Lefty's the last cut of the day, 6:45, lights half off. We don't rush the lineup though, even running late, even with the cough. That's been bothering him since March, that he won't see a doctor for. Doctors just confirm what you already know. He said ain't worth the door, fee for that. I laugh but I'm worried, Lefty 61, diabetic. Still standing on his feet 10 hours, still cutting heads, stubborn and prophetic. About his own mortality in a way that scares me more than it should. He asked about my son, asked if I'm still doing right, like a man who understood. The question carries more than it asks, checking if I'm still myself. I said I'm trying, he nodded, kept cutting, put the question on the shelf, the way barbershop men do. Not dismissing it, just letting it breathe. Trying's the whole job, he said don't let nobody tell you it's beneath what you should already have figured out. Some men trying their whole life. He's been cutting hair on the same corner since Carter was in office. Seen the block change 4 different ways. Never once made it as pretext to leave or complain too hard, just adjust it. Kept the chair the same, said the barbershop's the only place left where a man can say his actual name out loud without performing something. Just talk, just be exactly tired, or exactly proud, or exactly scared, without the conversation getting wide into something he has to defend later. This chair's a confession booth with better lighting, he told me once, half joking, mostly truth. I think about all the men who sat where I'm sitting, said things to Lefty that they never said to their wives, their pastors, their own self directly. That is home ministry, nobody gives Lefty a certificate for that. He just sweeps the floor at the end of the night, turns off where he sat, locks the gate, walks to the train, same as he's done for 3 decades. Hold. To the train at night instead of letting him walk alone. Told him I come Saturday too, even though my cut don't grow fast enough to need it weekly. Just wanted the extra conversation. He laughed, said boy you don't need no haircut, you need information. Which was true mostly and we both knew it, and neither of us minded. That's the real service Lefty's been giving this whole time, undefined on any price sheet, never charged for, never even named directly. Lefty, if you ever read this, I don't know if you know the role you played in keeping half this neighborhood's men from falling all the way down. Thank you for the chair, thank you for not rushing, thank you for the town you held together with clippers and patience, and a closing time here. Hit the cough check, man, we need you for a few more years. Still here, still here, still here, still here. Yo. Lion number one's my old landlord, said the heat was seasonal. December in a Bronx apartment with 3 blankets, not professional. He tell you to your face the boiler's being looked at presently. 11 months of presently, philosophically and currently. Liar number 2's the cousin who borrowed cash for a business thing. The business thing with sneakers he resolved. Technically a business in a sense, king. I wasn't even mad, the audacity had its own integrity. At least he wasn't pretending it was anything but opportunity. Liar number 3's the politician on the mailer with the smile. Promised the community center funding back in 2003. Meanwhile, the lot's still empty, weeds grown up through the crack. Foundation plan, he's a state senator now, moved up by being a different kind of man.
Liar number 4 is myself in '04. Told a girl I was focused on my future. Future was a PlayStation and a couch. That's the actual culture I was building at the time. I own that. I'm not exempt from the list. Self-awareness is the only thing that makes the whole accounting consist. Liar number 5's a dealer who told the block he kept it fair. Fair's a complicated word when desperation's in the air. I'm not excusing it, just naming a specific kind of lie. The one that wraps itself in necessity, help itself get by. Liar number 6 is harder. It's the version of the city that tells you it remembers everyone, that it has infinite pity for the people that it's built from. That's the biggest lie of all. The city doesn't remember nobody, people remember the soul. So I'm writing this to be the memory the city won't keep. 6 different liars, 6 different reasons, none of them asleep at the wheel of their own justification. All of them human still, that's the part nobody mentions. Liars need understanding too, they will. Yeah, they will. But I left myself off the full accountant, which is its own kind of lying. The omission where you tell 6 true stories while quietly denying that you're still doing version 4 of yourself most days, even now. I told that girl in '04 I was focused. 20 years later I'll allow that I'm still sometimes performing focus I don't actually possess. Still telling people I'm almost done with things that I'd honestly confess have been sitting half finished in springs I can't specific recall. That's liar number 7, the one writing this whole song, the one running the gallery wall and forgetting the hangers on picture next to the landlord and the cousin. I'm not flagellating myself for it, I'm just finishing the accounting that I begun. Cause a list of liars that excludes the list maker isn't honest. It's a frame designed to make the writer look exempt, which is its own version of the same game everybody else is playing. So here I exaggerate sometimes for the bar, round my own struggles up and other people's down by far. The most common lie there is the one that feels too small to name. 6 different liars plus the 7th writing them same shame. Different size, same human reaching for a softer version of the truth. That's not an excuse, that's just the actual complete proof.
Dear Channel 7 News, I am writing to formally request a correction to the segment aired last Tuesday at my address. You call my block troubled, I like to know troubled by what measure? Troubled by the school closing, or troubled by something you treasure? More if it confirmed the narrative you already had prepared. You showed footage of the corner but didn't show that we repaired the playground ourselves last summer when the city wouldn't fund it. 40 of us 2 Saturdays painting lumber, but you didn't show that one bit, cause 40 neighbors building a playground don't get the same ratings as one bad afternoon you can loop for the whole evening's broadcasting. I'm not asking you to lie the other way and call it perfect either. I'm asking for the math to add up, show the bad but show the reader. The part where Miss Tanya runs the after school program for free. The part where the corner store extends credit when the check's gonna be 2 days late, because that's just how the post office runs around here. You sent a reporter once, stood in front of my building for 90 seconds. Called it one of the city's most violent blocks. I'd ask where that legend comes from exactly. What data, what year, what specific incident? But I already know the answer's a stat from 1991. That's still in print because nobody updates the file once the narrative's already sold. Meanwhile, the actual block has a community garden 8 years old. A chess club that meets Thursdays, a grandmother who feeds the whole street every first Sunday for free, just because. That's not trouble, that's complete. In a way, your 15-second segment never has the time to cover. I'm not bitter, I promise, I'm just asking you to cover. The part of journalism that used to mean actually looking twice. You don't have to make us look perfect, just don't make the same mistake price. We pay forever every time a landlord or a bank denial cites your footage as the reason words have consequences, so do your nightly lights. Sincerely, a resident who's tired of correcting the same old line. P.S. Miss Tiny's program could use a mention sometime, she's doing fine.
Word that deserves the 90 seconds you gave to the worst afternoon all year. That's the whole letter, that's the whole ask. I hope somebody's listening here. I'm gonna close differently than I opened, if you'll permit the change in tone. I called your newsroom once, 2019, left a message, got a dial tone. Back eventually from somebody's assistant who said she'd pass it along. I don't know if she did, I'm not accusing anyone of anything wrong. On purpose, I think the structure just isn't built for what I'm asking. 15 seconds of bad news travels faster than the masking. Taping lumber 40 neighbors used on a Saturday in July. That's not malice, that's just incentive, and I understand why. The incentive exists the way it does. Fear holds attention longer. But I'm asking you formally, on behalf of a block that's stronger than your footage ever showed. Send somebody on a Thursday afternoon when the chess club meets, no drama required, no reason needed beyond the fact that 12 kids learning openings and end games is also the neighborhood, also worth 30 seconds in our names. Said correctly, spelled correctly, contextualized completely. I'm not asking for a miracle, I'm asking you to see clearly. The parts you've been editing out for 30 years of broadcasting. That's the whole ask. Stated, I'll keep watching, I'll keep drafting. These letters, whether you read them or not, because somebody should. Yours still hopeful despite the evidence, a neighbor doing what he could.
Testified in 97, I'm not gonna pretend it was simple, clean, or that I did it because I'm braver than the men I grew up between. I did it because they had my mother's medical records as leverage, and because the alternative meant somebody's life I valued less than my own privilege. That's the actual truth, not the version that sounds good in a verse. I made a calculation, not a stand I want that said first. The man I testified against had a daughter, I knew her from the bus. She stopped speaking to me after I understood I wasn't owed a trust. I moved twice, changed my number, my own brother didn't know where for a year. That's the cost that nobody mentions when they simplify it down to fear versus courage. It's neither really, it's just survival with paperwork, a series of decisions made by a 26-year-old trying not to be a jerk to his own future, while a different man's future got permanently changed. I don't sleep easy, I want that on the record. Nothing here's arranged to make me look clean. I made the calculation that I make again, but I think about his daughter on that bus more than I think about the win. Think about the win. Yeah, think about the win. People ask me sometimes, not directly, but in the careful way people ask. If I do it again, I tell them the question itself is the actual task. I live inside now, every day, not a thing with a fixed answer. Some decisions don't resolve, they just become a permanent tenant like cancer. That's in remission, manageable, present, never fully gone. I built a whole life since then, wife, 2 kids, a job, along. And none of it erases the bust, the daughter's face, the calculation made. I'm not asking for sympathy, I'm asking to be accurately portrayed as a man who did a complicated thing for reasons that were partly selfish, partly necessary, and entirely human. Not noble, not devilish. The system asked me to be a witness and never asked me to be at peace with what that role required. That part I had to negotiate myself in private, release by release, year by year, conversation by careful conversation. I changed my name back eventually, moved back near my home station. I see his cousin sometimes at the store, we nod, that's the whole interaction, that's the actual ending. No music swells, just an uneasy satisfaction that I'm still here, his daughter's still somewhere, and the calculation's done. Whether it was right is a question I'll be asking till the very last one. Very last one.
never left. I saw the daughter again, older now, in line at the pharmacy. Didn't recognize me at first and did, and something passed between us briefly. Not forgiveness exactly, not anger either, something harder to label. She asked how I'd been, I said fine. She said fine back. The whole table of everything underneath that exchange stayed exactly where it was, untouched, unaddressed. Both of us drew on the surface because the surface was survivable and the depth wasn't built for a pharmacy line. I think about that exchange more than the actual trial. That's the actual sign of where the real weight lives, not in the courtroom, in the small human after. I don't know what closure would even look like for either of us. Laughter, isn't it? Apology, isn't it? Time hasn't been it after 20 some years. Maybe there isn't one, maybe something just exists alongside the rest of your life. Not healed, not destroying you, just present like a low recurring tone underneath everything else, audible mainly when you're alone. I testified I'd do it again, probably for the same reasons, partly noble, mostly not. I'm not gonna dress it up cleaner than the actual toll it took on or on me, on a version of both of us. The calculation of race, that's the real ending, not peace, not resolution. Just two people who face the same event from opposite ends, and still 20 years later, nah, some debts don't close. Some you just carry the way you carry anything odd shaped, and permanent learning where to hold it so it doesn't cut as deep. That's not wisdom, that's just what's left after this long, that's just what I keep.
When it a piece in.
Pretty back there like this was on. Pretty this
Before the words, it was always the wax, that's the actual origin. A DJ with two copies in a mixer, finding a secret organ inside a record that the artist didn't even know was hiding there. My uncle had the techniques, taught me how to set the needle with care. Set scratching ain't destruction, it's a conversation with the groove. You're not erasing the record, you're finding a thing inside it to prove. Can talk back if you know exactly where and how hard to push. That's a whole language, whole vocabulary and a wrist and a push. Or the crossfader at the exact right millisecond. Practice for years in a bedroom with headphones, building calluses, building ears. That hear music differently than anybody who's never touched the deck. This whole genre's foundation is two turntables and a neck. Snap break that somebody found buried inside B of a record. Nobody bought. That's the actual miracle this culture's connected to. Before anybody rhymed a single bar over the loop. Respect the cut, respect the dig, respect the whole troop of men in basements with crates finding the 4 bars that mattered. That's this whole song. Let the turntables talk, let the needle scatter. The rest of what I can say into something better said in wax. DJ, take it from here. This is your verse now. Run the track. Buy your money.
like just
That's the actual song. Everything else was just the introduction. The real one's been playing this whole time. No further instruction. Need to just listen to what two hands could do with a record in time. That's hip-hop before it was ever a single written rhyme.
Last crawfish boil of the summer. Old Teddy doing the seasoning. Won't tell nobody the recipe. Says it's intuition, not a measuring. Situation, just cayenne till it feels right. That's the actual science. Whole backyard smell like the Gulf and Cayenne in defiance of August heat. Everybody sweating, nobody caring at all. My cousins got the speakers out on the porch, brass band second line call, echoing off the houses the way it does on a Sunday after the parade route. Grandma's in the lawn chair under the oak tree, hasn't said much, but she's watching everything. taking the whole scene into some private scroll that she'll bring up later. Usually at the exact right moment. Months from now, Teddy's season is perfect like always. Everybody knows somehow. This year feels different though, lighter and heavier at the same exact time. Cause it's the first boy since we lost Pop Pop, and that absence in the rhyme of the whole afternoon is its own kind of presence, if that makes any sense. He used to crack the loudest jokes, the ones that needed no defense, just landed because of how he told them. Gone now 8 months this July. Gone now 8 months this July. Grandma finally talks around 6 when the second batch hits the table. Says pop, pop, would've had the spice level wrong on purpose. And the fable of him pretending the food was too mild when it clearly wasn't gets retold for the 100th time. And everybody laughs like it isn't. That's New Orleans, I think. We don't separate the bitter from the sweet. The boy happens whether you're grieving or not. The cat doesn't care what year it is or who's missing from the lawn chair. This particular August, my little cousin asked where Pop Pop was, and Teddy calm and just matter of fact said he's in the season, and baby, he's in the whole vibe of this. Which sounds like comfort for a kid, but it actually exists as a real truth. The recipe taught the laugh, the way he'd crack a beer and say the Saints got it this year. Half a joke, half a prayer. Last boil of the summer ended it with everybody sitting content and a little sad and a little full. Under a sky doing this purple thing that only happens over the river. In late August somebody's phone playing an old recording of Pop Pop's voice from a birthday 3 years back. Nobody turned it off, we just let it play the way grief and joy actually move. When you let them share a table instead of fighting over which one's true. That's not sad, that's not happy either. That's just being a rememberer. That's just being a rememberer. My nephew 7, stirring the pot with Teddy's hand over his on the paddle. Learning the same intuition, not a measuring logic, same battle. With the cayenne that every generation in this family seems to inherit. He asked Teddy if he'd teach him the real recipe. Teddy said, you get it. The same way I got it, which is watching, not writing it down anywhere. That's how this whole thing survives, not in a book, just in the air. Of a backyard every August, passed through hands of patience and smell. Grandma fell asleep in the lawn chair around 8. Its own kind of tell that the day did what it needed to do. Wore everybody out gently. We covered her with Teddy's jacket, let her rest, sat around her present. The way you do with somebody who's earned the right to just be tended to. The brass band on the speaker wind down to something slower, something blue and warm at the same time. The kind of song that knows exactly when to fade. I looked around the yard, 3 generations, 1 empty chair we made peace with for this season. 1 pot scraped clean, 1 good year closed, and that's the whole inheritance. Not the house, not the land, just knowing how to hold the table together when half of what's on it is missing. Last boil of the summer, next one's already being planned. That's the whole listing of what this family does. Instead of saying the hard things directly, we just keep setting the table. We just keep showing up correctly. A not grieving a knot, that's the entire recipe passed down whole. It's a vision, not a measuring. It's not just a seasoning, that's the soul. We just keep showing up correct. A not grieving a knot, that's the entire recipe passed down whole. Intuition, not a measuring. That's not just the seasoning, that's the soul. So, that's the soul. missed calls from a number I saved as just dad 4 years ago. I'm sitting in the car in the driveway, not going in, just watching the glow of the screen dim and light back up every time another text comes through. Call me when you can, that's all it says. Simple words, I don't know what to do with simple words from a man who wasn't simple to grow up around. I've rehearsed this call in my head probably 40 times, found 40 different openings, 40 different tones, none of them landing right. My therapist says I'm allowed to just say hello and see how the rest of the night unfolds without scripting it. Completely easier said than actually living through the static in my chest right now. My hands not quite forgiving themselves for shaking over a phone call to my own father. This man who taught me to ride a bike, who also left for 11 months when I was 7. The span of time still living in my body somewhere even at 33. I'm not calling because I forgave anything specific. I'm calling because he's the only father I'm gonna get, and the math on that is final, fixed and real. I press the number, it rings once. My whole chest is doing something I can't conceal.
Hey Dad, 2 words took 11 missed calls and 4 years to arrive at. He's quiet for a second, I can hear him breathing, can hear him try at something too on his end. Some version of this that's equally hard. I'm glad you called, that's all he says. First, no big speech, no big regard
for the years between just 5 words that somehow hold the whole weight of everything that's said. We talked for 6 minutes about nothing, the state of his need, the weather, my job, surface things that aren't actually surface at all. They're just the only entry point. 2 people this nervous can't rehearse without drowning. He doesn't apologize, I don't ask him to, not tonight. Maybe never, maybe that's not the thing this call's supposed to make right. Maybe it's just supposed to exist, proof that the door's not fully closed. That 11 missed calls means 11 times he tried. However he chose to try, however late, however imperfect, the entire shape of it.
We died. 2 words took 11 missed calls and 4 years to arrive at. He's quiet for a second, I can hear him breathing, can hear him try at something too on his end. Some version of this that's equally hard. I'm glad you called, that's all he says. First, no big speech, no big regard.
3 weeks later he called again, not 11 times, just once on a Tuesday. Asked if I wanted to get lunch Sunday, said it casual like it wasn't the whole way of testing whether the first call was a door or just a single crack. I said yes, we met at the diner, he used to take me to sad talk. Didn't look back at the 11 months of the years after, just talked about now mostly small things, the way 2 people we build trust slowly, almost ghostly. At first barely there, easy to miss if you're looking for a single moment. There wasn't one, there was just lunch, then another lunch, the components of something neither of us named, accumulating quietly week to week. I'm not going to pretend it's fixed, some damage doesn't fully speak the language of repair. It just learns to sit beside the new thing being built. I hung up, sit in the driveway another 20 minutes. Don't move, just sit with the strange unfamiliar lightness of a weight I've carried since 7. Not gone, not resolved, just slightly different now. That's not heaven, that's just a Tuesday where I finally press the button on the call. Sometimes that's the whole entire victory available to us all.
Took 11 missed calls and 4 years to arrive at. He's quiet for a second, I can hear him breathing, can hear him try. Hey, Dad.
Item 1, the blender we bought at the place on Myrtle barely used. Item 2, 43 photographs, half of them I should've removed from my phone years ago but didn't, for reasons I'm examining right now. Item 3, her sister's umbrella that never made it back somehow. I'll mail a small thing, doesn't need to become a whole production. Item 4, the record's mine, clearly no need for any deduction or debate, but I noticed she alphabetized them at some point without me asking. And that detail's doing something to my chest that I wasn't expecting, masking itself as a small fact, but landed like an actual excavation. Item 5, the chair from her grandmother, which requires a small explanation of whose family that even belongs to anymore. 3 years deep into us. Item 6, a coffee mug that says world's okay, so that one's a discuss. For nobody, just a joke it from a holiday neither of us probably remembers exactly. Item 7, a plant by the window still alive, somehow surviving the impacts of 2 people who couldn't even keep themselves consistently watered either. 8. The note she left on the fridge in February got the thing, be back by 7. Still this small handwriting, I'm folding it into a box like it's heaven. The evidence, I genuinely can't tell which one it actually is right now. Adam 9, my side of the closet, which took 11 minutes somehow, less than I expected, like my whole presence here was smaller than I thought. Adam 10, a framed photo from the wedding we went to, the one we caught. The bouquet joke about half serious, the kind of joke that ages strange in retrospect. Knowing now how the whole thing was actually going to range itself eventually, neither of us catching anything that day after all. Adam 11, the spare key on the hook by the door, which I take down slow. Not sure yet if it goes in my pocket or hers. A small decision that holds more weight than the key should reasonably hold, but here we are holding it anyway. Adam 12, a takeout menu from the place that closed, kept for no reason but the way the corner of it's folded, exactly where she always folded things, a habit. I noticed once and never mentioned, filed away the way you do with a small habit that becomes eventually one of the things you miss without expecting to. Adam 13, nothing, I'm standing in the empty room, there's nothing left to call. An item, just the marks on the wall where furniture used to block the sun from fading to paint little rectangles of darker color, every one. A small record of where something used to be that isn't anymore. I don't have an item 14, I just have the room and the door. And the drive ahead and whatever this whole list actually adds up to mean. Maybe just, we built a life out of small things, maybe that's the whole scene. I taped the last box, wrote nothing on it, carried it down to the car alone. That's the actual ending, no box for that feeling, I'm just driving it home.
was nicer than half the names you know from this borough. Factually, not bragging, just stating it the way you state something actually documented, like a stat in a record book nobody updates anymore. Tone caught his deal in 95, I was there before, sitting on the floor of the same basement studio, same engineer, same exact room. He got the right verse on the right tape at the right time. I'm not consumed by it, that's just time, and that's just a different kind of arithmetic. The talent alone accounts for I made peace with that particular trick of fate around 2001. Somewhere between bitter and grateful landing, somewhere more like clear-eyed. I still write, still got the same standing. Appointment with the page every week that I've had since I was 16. Never needed the deal to validate the actual practice. I mean that more now than I could have explained it back when it actually stung. The word was always the point, the deal was just a different kind of song. And some men's lives happen to play and other men's don't. Equally real, either way equally valid, regardless of what the charts reveal. Teach a Saturday workshop now, free at the rec center on Fulton. 12 kids who think bars are the whole world, the same total consumption I had at the age before I understood the larger machine underneath the music, the deals, the politics, the charger of momentum that has very little to do with who's actually the illest. I tell them that not to discourage, just so they're not as naive as the kid I was, blissed out on pure talent being the only variable that mattered in the equation. Tone still calls me some time for verses for advice, genuine appreciation between us that the industry timeline never managed to corrode. I'm not the story that gets told in documents about the golden era's road, but I'm in it on the low end of somebody's credits on a feature here, a placement there, a name that real heads know, a permanent fixture in the actual fabric, even without the platinum plaque on my wall. My daughter asked me once if I was famous, I told her not at all, but I'm necessary, which she didn't fully understand at 9, but I understood it completely, saying it, that's the actual design of a life in this culture that the mainstream story doesn't usually show. my Saturday kids got signed last month. Small label, real deal though. First thing he did was call me before he called his own people. Let me know before the ink dry. Said you taught me the bar that got me the meeting. I sat with that a long minute, feeling something complicated and fleeting and good. Not mine to claim, but not unrelated to me either. A kind of fatherhood the industry's never built a category for. A believer passing something forward that nobody's going to put on a plaque. The ones who stayed, who taught, who kept the actual thing alive below the radar, below the charts, and rec centers and basement studios still. That's not a consolation prize, that's the foundation, that's the actual skill of staying in something for the thing itself. Decades past when it was new. Tones got the platinum plaque, I got the 12 kids who actually came through my Saturday workshop and still text me sometimes about a bar they wrote. I wouldn't trade that honestly, that's not a line, that's the actual note. I want this whole song to end on not bitterness, not envy, just peace, with a different shape life than the one the industry calls release.
Today, Mr. Otis and the gym still smell like the same wax. Same buzzer that you never fixed, cause you said the squeak relax. The new kids gave them something to laugh at before the whistle. You ran that program out your own pocket half the time. The missile of city funding never came the way the flyers promised it would. But you kept the doors open anyway, said a kid is understood. Once a day by somebody patient is a kid that makes it to Friday. I was 11 when you caught me skipping, didn't lecture, just said stay. And rebound for the older boys, you'll learn more watching than talking. I rebounded for 2 years before you let me touch a ball. Walking into that gym was the first place that ever asked nothing of me, except showing up. You collected us the way the block was supposed to be collected. Before half of it got priced out or moved the worst. 40 years on Van Siclen, same building, same key on the same chain. You outlasted 3 different youth directors in the city's own campaign to close you down twice for under-utilization. Pack gym, empty file. Kept a coffee can of quarters by the door for the kids whose bus passed. Ran out before the month did, never made it a whole big production. Just slid it across without a word if you saw somebody patting their pockets twice. You called everybody young man and young lady, regardless of the advice people gave you about being too formal with kids that needed softness. You said respect was the softness, that's what half these kids were short of. Not hugs, not slang, just somebody talking to them like they already counted. Marcus from the building next to mine, you're the reason that he amounted to anything by his own words at your funeral, standing at that podium. Shaking said you were the only man whose opinion of him he didn't doubt. I think about that gym at 6 a.m. sometimes when I can't sleep. The quiet before you'd unlock it, the particular cola, the cinder block, the riot of dust in the one shaft of window like before the first kid showed. You'd already be there at 5, sweeping like the floor itself was old. Something from you daily, some that only you could see. The terms of 40 years of unlocking that door before anybody else stirred or moved. Session now, they let me keep your key on my own chain.
Heal my own chain.
Same coffee can by the door, refilled it myself last week. Same exact stain. On the floor by half court that nobody's ever tried to properly clean. A kid asked me last month who Otis was, pointed at the old plaque, lean and curious the way you used to get about anything he didn't know yet. I told him the short version, 40 years, a coffee can a day. He never asked anybody to repay directly, just to pass forward. The kid nodded like that made sense, went back to his free throws toward Whatever Tuesday was gonna teach him that I couldn't plan exactly. That's the whole thing you left. I think not a method, not a legacy. Just a door that opens at 5 and a can that's never quite empty. 3 years today, I locked up at 9, swept twice the way you want me to. Sat on the bleachers a minute in the dark before I finally left and drove through the same 4 blocks. You walked every morning for 4 decades. Mr. Otis, the gym still standing, the kids still come being paid, debt still being paid forward slow. The only way debts like that clear. 40 years on Van Siclen, we still got the key, we're still here.